My name is Nathan Coyne with Aerotek. I appreciate you all joining us this afternoon. Really looking forward to spending some time on this subject. Just to give you some background, Aerotek is one of the globe's largest staffing companies. We support just about every segment and industry that you can think of. My role within Aerotek is manager of divisional operations over our industrial division, or commercial division as we call it. And we really focus on three segments, which is manufacturing, distribution and warehouse, and facility support and services. I've been with the company for 17 years, and in this role I have the opportunity to travel around to many of our offices and work with our teams as they engage with the markets to provide talent for companies like yours. So this subject and this opportunity to speak with you all is an honor, and I'm looking forward to it. So we'll jump right in. The name of this WebEx is Cast the Widest Net, and it's really about how diversity can help address the labor shortage in America. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. I don't think that's a shock that there is a labor shortage to anyone that's on this phone. It's something that we deal with everywhere we go, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. At the end of the call, we'll open up for questions. They'll come through via text, and I'll do my best to answer them. If I don't have the answers, then we will capture those questions and make sure we circle back with any of you who are interested in talking more about the subject. But getting into, is there really a worker shortage? I think we all know there is, but just to touch on some recent data that we've been looking at, and this comes from a 2016 study from Industry Week that surveyed over 900 manufacturing managers and what their biggest challenges were. 67% of those folks said that it's a lack of skilled candidates. 78% said the aging out of current workers. And one of the latest stats I heard is that for every 4 people that retire from the trades, 1 person comes in to fill that void. So we are up against it. I think a lot of things are changing around information on that front. But as we talk about how we address it short term, it really becomes about broadening the labor pool that we're focused on. And why would we do that? Well, why would we focus more on diversity as a hiring practice to address the skills gap? And it comes down to a couple things. It comes down to boosting the bottom line. Research company conducted a study that found diverse companies are at least 15% more likely to experience above average financial returns, and companies who have the most diversity are 35% more likely to have great financials. The second thing is that it offers increased adaptability. When you have employees that are from diverse backgrounds, you find that they have different perspectives. They bring individual talents and experiences that can help your company react to fluctuating markets, customer demands. It also creates a variety of viewpoints, and when you have a diverse staff that feels comfortable communicating their perspectives and varying points, you get a larger pool of ideas. You can address problems from different angles. It leads to more effective execution. Companies that encourage diversity in the workplace inspire their employees to perform at their highest ability. Company-wide strategies can be executed, and then it results in higher productivity, profit, and the ROI we talked about. It also creates a diverse collection of skills and experiences such as language, cultural understanding, and it brings a diversity and perspective that you can pull all the way to the top of your leadership as you engage in business. So how do we address it? Today we're going to talk about 3 main buckets and a little bit beyond these 3, but as I travel around and I talk with our customers and our internal employees about the skills gap, really the 3 prevalent things in terms of hiring practice is around gender, racial and cultural hiring, and age-related opportunities or ways to engage with the talent pool. So what does the data say? We'll start with the gender situation. And the data says that currently the manufacturing industry employs 8.7 million men to 3.4 million women. And adding to the ranks of women in manufacturing could help address the shortage in a big way. And there are probably a lot of reasons dating back in history that explain why more than 2/3 of the manufacturing workforce is male. But the important thing moving forward is that this represents an untapped resource for all of us and new hires in the industry that we desperately need to address the gap. And so it's really about making sure that we cover everything we need to, that we don't leave anything on the table when it comes to hiring. So we get into how you effectively can start targeting more women in manufacturing. And believe it or not, it really comes down to you can sabotage yourself before you even get your first interview with a candidate in this pool. And you have to look at your current job postings. Research has said that female job seekers may be put off by the terms that you see. They may indicate a preference for more male candidates, such as independent, competitive, or dominant. Women didn't feel like they should apply for those types of jobs because they wouldn't fit or they wouldn't belong. And then on the flip side, the same research noted that the words that women interpret as being more welcoming and more appropriate in terms of what they're looking for were words such as committed, loyal, responsible, and including these words in the job posting can boost the number of female candidates who even apply. So you want to make sure that you emphasize objective, measurable, and relevant qualifications over cultural or male-associated personality traits when writing a job description. And so I didn't introduce Sherry Richardson on the front end of the call, but I will now. Sherry is actually a on-premise representative for Aerotek at one of our large manufacturing sites, and she spends her entire time embedded with that customer. And we were talking about the content of this presentation and the topic in general, and we got to these slides, and she stopped me and she said, "I don't agree with this." And I thought, that's interesting because, you know, the data says this. We as a company have employed this and it's made a difference in our recruiting strategy. So, Sherry, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about how you carry that forward and can put it into real life.
Thanks, Nathan. Okay, so like Nathan mentioned, you know, when I first saw these two slides, I was completely shocked. I was drawn to the descriptive words on the first page, you know, words like determined and confident and independent. And I strongly disagreed with the results and felt like I needed to dig in and do a little bit more research. Upon doing so, the results that I found were pretty clear, although I was still not really convinced. So I decided to do an experiment on my own. Like Nathan mentioned, I do sit on site with my client, so I decided to test my own people. So I wrote up 2 job descriptions from the same job using the words from each page. I waited till my contractors had gone to lunch, and then I went back in the break room and had handed out my surveys. I handed out my job descriptions to each of my contractors. So I gave, you know, a certain group of men both the job descriptions and a certain group of women both the job descriptions, and asked them to read both job descriptions and to come back and with a check mark on which position they were more likely to apply for. I was convinced I would prove this research wrong. To my surprise, I was the one that was wrong. The men picked the job description with the leadership words from the first page, and the women overwhelmingly picked the second job description. I dug in a little more, and speaking with the women, a few of them told me that they picked they picked the job description that they did because of the warm words and that they felt like they would fit into that environment better. I realize this isn't scientific research, but it did open my eyes, and I was definitely wrong. So I just wanted to share that in case anyone else is looking at this and saying, that can't be right. So thanks, Nathan, for giving me an opportunity to mention that.
You bet, Sherry. And we're going to hear from Sherry here in a little bit again on some of the other work she's doing with our customer. But I really thought that was cool and relevant and validated these points. So really, you know, when you're on this topic, I was also talking with the crew about this, and I think it's kind of the men are from Mars and women are from Venus concept. And as we're out there looking to tap into potentially a resource that could help with some of the needs, this is a very important point. Continuing on this topic, it really comes down to how leadership frames this. You got to get off to a good start in how the company thinks about going after females in manufacturing, and it's paving the road to success for female employees and emphasizing the culture in the interview process as a start, mentorship programs, networking opportunities, collaborative approach that signal potential employees that your company will value their contributions. Everything from the beginning all the way through the process should lead to making sure that those things are addressed. And it starts from the top. Diversity in the leadership team by headhunting qualified female candidates to lead the company can increase the number of female leaders, which in turn is a trickle down and could affect attracting more women into the organization. I was talking to one of our representatives in Shoreview, Minnesota, who had a customer reach out to them specifically on this topic. And they really had a goal, an initiative. They had 4 females on the manufacturing floor shop, and their goal was to, by the end of the year, get to 10. The company is a diesel engine manufacturer, so they look for automotive technicians, diesel mechanics, that type of thing. And so we went back as our company and looked at the market data and found out that females only represented 1% of the candidates in the field that they would need to open up the candidate pool and be willing to train entry-level candidates to get more women in the door. And then once they got more folks into the program, created the mentorship programs and really kind of an apprenticeship type setting, they got a few more females in, which created more referrals, and then they ultimately went on to hit their goal. And it has really helped the overall demographic of their shop floor. So I thought that was a really great example, real-life example of one of our offices and one of our reps working with a company to address the issue. Moving on to the next piece is really the racial and cultural hiring practices. This data represents the overall landscape right now, and similar to the opportunity to attract more women in manufacturing, we also see a significant potential to expand the workforce with more minority hiring. Less than a third of the current manufacturing workforce is made up of cultural and racial minorities. And again, this represents a huge opportunity for us to reach out to candidates. Again, some of this, this data may be relevant to some markets, different to others, but this is, again, a holistic snapshot. I think the thing that's important about this is stepping back, looking at it, making sure you know the data in your market for your company, and that you put some thought into how you're going about marketing and trying to address hiring a more multicultural workforce. And there are easy ways to encourage a broader range of people to apply for your jobs. And again, achieving more diverse workforce starts at the beginning of hiring, and it won't happen by accident. Just having a thought, you have to make sure that everything that's forward-facing to the community of people that you're recruiting is very clear about what your intentions are, what your cultural position is. And so when you write the job posting, write specifically that you welcome applications from members of minority groups, that there's no discrimination based on basis of gender, sexual orientation, religion, disabilities, or any of those things. I know that many of the states make that mandatory, but I think it's important, regardless of what the rules are in the area you're working, that this is something that you consciously do. Let's talk a little bit about cultural fit and what it is and what it's not. First, what it is, it's about hiring people who will sync with the company's core values, people that establish and maintain cooperative relationships with their team and organization, and people who make the effort to work collaboratively with everyone, even those with whom they disagree, people that may bring something extra or special to the team, which may include a very diverse point of view. What it's not is hiring people that look and act the same way you do. And, I hear it even today. It's kind of the brother-in-law hiring method, and it's something that can really put you in a tough spot, as it creates the opportunity to get out and create a more diverse workforce. So it's not eliminating any candidates for reasons that wouldn't affect their job performance, allowing cultural stereotypes to impact your judgment on hiring. And the reason that I include the word unconscious bias, and I think it comes down to that, is that we don't, automatically think that way. You have to step back and figure out if that's happening, and it's a very real thing. So we have to be careful when we're judging candidates who we have less in common with, and really make it about their skill set and what they bring to the table from a diversity standpoint. The next one is an interesting conversation because I think it's a topic that we get a lot of interest in when we post in social media around millennials and bringing in that group of people ages 19 to 35 into the workforce. There's, I think, some misconceptions there. And I think the first thing we would urge you not to do is to not buy into the stereotypes. I think a lot of hiring managers we deal with perceive millennials as even lazy or undisciplined. But I think our experience is they work just as we hire a ton internally, and I think they work just as hard as anyone that's out there. They just work differently than a lot of us are used to. I'm a Gen Xer myself, and I scratch my head sometimes. But I think these are folks that are extremely hardworking when they have the right tools, the right technology, all of those things. So we want to make sure we're not making age generalizations, just like we talked about with the or the racial type situations. At the same time, some millennials may view manufacturing as dirty, dangerous, some of those keywords that I think we deal with, but we all know that that's changing, and that millennials and manufacturers are heavily invested in technology. I see it when I'm out at NTMA events. I'm blown away by the technology that's coming through and that all of you are engaged with. So it's about finding common ground. If you picture a stereotypical millennial, you might imagine someone who's always on their cell phone, their smartphone, their tablet, and that's actually a good thing when you're looking for employees who are comfortable with technology. And since technology advances are happening in the sector and in the segment, it's exciting and cutting edge, and it should appeal to this group of people. So a couple ways that we address it real world. These first two points here are some of the things that we're doing in our markets. The San Diego market actually engages with the NTMA there for apprenticeships, bringing in folks. The machining program that they've put together is 98% successful placement ratio, and about 20 of the candidates from the program are placed with our clients at various different locations. In Minnesota, we've got a lot of students that we work with their workforce development program to create a 20-hour training course, and we've placed over 283 welders and 128 machinists across all different types of demographics into a very tight market up there in Minnesota. And the last example is I'll turn it back over to Sherry to talk a little bit beyond some of the buckets that we've been in and talk about how Flextronics has engaged us, and specifically Sherry, around continuing to broaden their hiring. So Sherry, you're back up.
Hey, thanks, Nathan. So a couple of things. So nationwide, the Flex account team members utilize diverse resources from community grassroots efforts, and that would be going into high schools and talking to soon to graduate high school students, going into the community colleges, technical schools. But we've also expanded that out, and we include support centers, whether that includes refugee support centers, churches, community help centers, and we've gone into the chambers of commerce. Another part of the partnership that we're very excited about and that we've been working on the last 2 quarters this year, and we'll be moving into 2017. We're engaging with our military bases across currently Kentucky, Tennessee, and Texas. So working with the veterans and their spouses, transitioning programs, transitioning military. We are involved on naval bases, working with Army Reserve centers and the Air Force. And we've seen an increase in diverse hiring nationwide through this networking and direct referrals that are coming in from these resources, particularly in the Asian, African American, and Indian cultures. So we're super excited about this particular avenue that we've partnered with our client on, and feel like it's adding 2 additional buckets that we can recruit in. So that's what we're doing at Flat.
Sherry, thank you.
Thank you.
So I know we've zoomed through this and we slotted for an hour, but that's really from a content standpoint all we have. I think the last thing I'll say about this topic is that when you talk about really hiring in the buckets that we have been, it starts from the top like we mentioned, but it has to permeate the culture from there all the way down to the newest person on the shop floor, and that it can be felt, and it's a very real thing within the organization. So if we don't get to a specific example or a question that you have today, my information is here on the website, and you reach out to me again. If I don't know the answers, we're a very large organization, and I know someone within it does, and we can connect those dots. So at this time, I'll turn it over to all of you and let you ask any questions that you may have or share any insight. Doesn't appear that anything's coming across. So again, if you have something and you would like to just follow up with me individually, call me or shoot me an email at my email address listed there. And certainly I hope we provided some value for all of you, and thank you for your time this afternoon, and let you get back to your day jobs. Thank you.